It doesn't matter if you're a fan of the Razorbacks or the Bearcats or neither. The matchup between number 19 Arkansas and number 23 Cincinnati is one of the biggest of week 1. And today I'm going to share some of my thoughts on both teams as well as my prediction on which one of them is going to finish week 1 1-0. Starting with Cincinnati, I believe Luke Fickell is a great coach who has built a great program at Cincinnati. The fact that they were just in the college football playoffs last season speaks for itself. Obviously, they lost a good number of their players off of last year's team, but they still have plenty of talent on the roster. The biggest question mark for them seems to be at the quarterback position, kind of emphasized by the fact that they're unwilling to name their starting quarterback until game day. But I do think Luke Fickell was being 100% honest when he said in his press conference that they do know who is going to start and they do not intend on playing both in this game. I think he wants to settle in on one guy. And if I was to give my guess at who that would be, it would be number 6, Ben Bryant, who is the less mobile of the two, but who I think can be an effective distributor for them. He should have a solid supporting cast around him, starting up front with one of the most experienced offensive lines in college football this year, along with some playmakers like speedy wide receiver Trey Tucker and Josh Wiley, who is a vertical threat in his own right at the tight end position. Defensively, they might take a step back this season, but I think you can still expect them to be a well-coached group that's going to run to the football and hit, and that will still serve as an asset rather than a liability in the majority of their games. As a team, if they can mentally handle the pressure and properly manage the moment, they should come into Fayetteville very hungry after the way last season ended with a punishing 27-6 loss at the hands of Alabama. Now on to the Arkansas Razorbacks. Sam Pittman, the people's coach, the underdog of underdogs. If you would have predicted that Arkansas would be as far along under Pittman as they are in just 2 short years, the vast majority of the country would have scoffed and laughed at you. But now the Pitt boss has ingrained that same underdog, tough, blue-collar, go-get-it-done-yourself mentality in this program, and the Hogs head into this season with as much expectations as they've had in perhaps a decade. And for good reason. Arkansas offensively, similar to Cincinnati last season, returns a starting quarterback with the talent and potential to be a Heisman finalist when it's all said and done. At wide receiver, the Hogs no longer have the best in the country in Treylon Burks, but from an overall talent perspective, I believe that room will be better. I don't know that there's any one individual guy that will be able to separate and establish himself as the go-to guy the way Burks obviously did last season, but I do think there is a number of guys that could produce big plays in big games for Arkansas this season. Whether it's the transfer additions in Jaden Hazelwood or Matt Landers or a second-year guy like Keytron Jackson or Warren Thompson, who Pittman and Browse have heralded as maybe the most improved player on the entire team this offseason. Regardless of who it is, I think Arkansas is going to have plenty of viable options in the wide receiver room this season. Then you look into the backfield at the tailbacks, and even with the expected absence of one of the best running backs in the SEC last season in Dominique Johnson for this game, Arkansas still has plenty of great options at the position with Raheem Rocket Sanders, A.J. Green, and I personally believe that true freshman Rashad Dubinion has more than enough talent to take on whatever role the staff needs him to until Dominique is back and fully ready to go. And then you take all that and you place it behind what will very arguably be one of the best offensive lines in the country, one of the few offensive lines that can boast more experience than the Cincinnati offensive line I just spoke about. And offensive coordinator Kendall Briles has all the players and pieces in place he needs to see his offense executed at an elite level. Defensively for the Razorbacks, defensive coordinator Barry Odom should have more talent at his disposal than he's had in his prior 2 seasons at Arkansas, especially in terms of the secondary in between guys like All-American Jalen Catalon, Miles Slusher, Hudson Clark, Ladarius Bishop, Dwight McLaughlin, Malik Chavis, Kari Johnson, Jaden Johnson. They should be solid at the defensive back position. Then at linebacker, you have to feel really good about Bumper Pool and Alabama transfer Drew Sanders. There's a lot of inexperience behind those two, but with what Arkansas does schematically, you'll only see them running 2 linebackers out on the field at a time anyways. Although I will say I am excited to see what some of those younger guys in the room, like a Chris Paul, like a Jordan Crook, or a Caden Hensley or Woodrow, what they can do with their opportunities to produce throughout the season. As far as the defensive line goes, that for me personally is the biggest question mark group for this team heading into the season. I certainly think there's some unproven talent within the room, but without actually seeing them in action, it's hard for me to really predict whether or not I think they're going to be a strength or weakness for the Razorbacks throughout the season. The only prediction I'm willing to commit to in regards to this group is that they are about to receive quite the test via a stout Cincinnati offensive line. And now, with all that window dressing aside, to put it quite simply, I believe Arkansas is the better overall team than Cincinnati right now, and I think the Razorbacks will be the ones to start the season 1-0. You truly never know what to expect on any given week in college football, especially when it comes to week 1, but I think position by position, matchup by matchup, the Hogs just have the edge over the Bearcats. I like Arkansas's offense against Cincinnati's defense more than I like Cincinnati's offense against Arkansas's defense, and vice versa. I think Arkansas wins, maybe even wins big, although I don't think I'd ever be foolish enough to count Luke Fickell and his Bearcats out.